Welcome to Be Well. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jonathan from your YMCA here in San Diego, and I'm honored to have these opportunities to bring to you different leaders and experts in their field related to living a mindful, vibrant life. As your moderator, I come to you with 30 plus years experience in mindfulness and mental health. And I think of being mindful as doing what we can to consciously bring our attention and focus to the present, this moment. And when I think about our presence here today, I think that that is built upon all those that have come before us. And so that's relative to the discussion we're going to have as we look at the history of our Black history of movers and shakers here in San Diego. In honor of Black History Month, I am very fortunate to have Yvette Porter Moore with us today. And I can see that as one of our guests, she's already getting a shout out from people that are happy to see her with us here. But I am very honored to have Yvette with us. Yvette is a historian and genealogist. She's been involved with public history pursuit for the last 30 years. She is the founder and CEO of Root Digger Genealogy Research Services. And one of the quotes that Yvette was sharing with me by Maya Angelou, the more you know of your history, the more liberated you are. So, Yvette, thank you for being with us here today. I appreciate you coming in and offering your insights and some of the research that you've done. But first off, tell me, how did you become involved in this particular pursuit?
Well, thank you for having me also. I appreciate that. My pursuit in genealogy research and history pretty much happened because I was adopted and I wanted to find out more about my background. So in my early 20s, I did some research. I was able to find my birth family, my mom's side and my father's side. And this was before we even had online, I had to go through some different ways to do the research than doing it online. And then from there, my mom, Betty, who raised me, wanted to write her memoirs of New York, Sugar Hill, Harlem. And she has a great history. And she asked me if I would help her with her research. And so I told her I would. However, she passed away before we could even complete it. So I spent a lot of time traveling to New York, Massachusetts, and North Carolina, doing the research that I needed to get her background. So from there, it just kind of, I got that genealogy bug. And so from there, I started taking various courses and going to different workshops and whatnot and conferences. And as a matter of fact, today is Roots Tech, and which is the largest genealogy organization that comes together. It's a really huge convention. So they're all online today. So and that's where I need to be. No.
Shortly after our
Later.
conversation, yes. But so I know you've got the
Yeah.
history and genealogy bug, so to speak, and you pursued that educational. But as you had shared with me before, your family really was integral in a number of ways related to history here in San Diego, and that's part of what prompted some of your research as well. If you'd share a little bit about that.
Well, my father was an educator, and he was very active in the community, civically and publicly and whatnot. And my mom was his support system. And I, being brought up in San Diego, I was, I met a lot of different individuals that were movers and shakers, and it was just normal, to see people doing great things. And I wanted to know more about them and their lives, and where did they come from? Where did they migrate from? And who are their people? And so I started working on a project of doing their background research and interviewing individuals. In fact, one of the people online, Dee Sanford, is one of the people that I interviewed. She has a wonderful historical background. And, I just, I wanted to take the genealogy and the research of interviewing people and finding out more about the individuals in San Diego. And also, I love doing grave research. So I go to the cemeteries and I find different individuals, Black folks, and even our Caucasian brothers and sisters. I like the pioneers of San Diego, so I've been researching them and how we all interacted with one another. So that's just one of my interests.
So I do
Mhm.
want to make note before you move further into kind of some of the other history of the Black movers and shakers in San Diego.
Mhm.
You had actually supported your father in being honored with his legacy
Yes.
in education. So if you want to say something about that.
Right. When I attended his memorial service, different individuals came up and said that there should be something named after him since he, did a lot within our community. And one day I saw in the paper an advertisement for schools in our local community to be named after leaders. Um, and so when I saw that, I said, you know what, I need to do that. So I put a campaign together and sent letters out and asking for support, and it was greatly accepted. And today we have two elementary schools named after him: Walter J. Porter Elementary School in southeastern San Diego.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
And
and for me, it was just it is an honor because we go to cemeteries to pay respect to our loved ones. My father was not buried. He's we had a he's out to sea, or like a sea burial. So
yeah,
I was like, well, this is like perfect because, when I pass the school, it's just like, it's just a memory of my dad, and it's
that's
very touching.
that's beautiful. And I know both your father and your mother were educators, so it's no surprise that you pursued a great deal of education yourself.
Mm,
I remember you telling me that there hasn't been much documentation related to Black history in San Diego, and I think you cited some of the work of it may have been the book "Black Pioneers of San Diego" by Larry Malone, but
yes.
you're furthering that contribution in terms of history.
Right. So I've been building upon what has already been laid out. And in my research, I have also discovered other individuals that are pursuing to research the Black community. And they've done this in their dissertations. And so there are fragments of research. And I like to take that and bring it and pull it all together and possibly have it in book form. And I mean, there may be other ways that we can do this, but I'm just seeing so much more, about our people in San Diego and the contributions that they have made.
Well, I like it. It was either a quote that you shared or it's your quote, but it
Mhm.
was wherever you live, become the expert. And
Uh,
that's what you've gone after here. So
yes.
let's talk about some of the movers and shakers. So you obviously acknowledge your father and your mother, but you went when you and I talked earlier. You went way back into the 1800s and were sharing.
Oh, right. And so some of those individuals were with the Black pioneers, and that was from the book that we were discussing. I would say Nate Harrison, who was born enslaved in the 1820s, and he died in 1920. He was born in Kentucky, and he came to California during the gold rush. And he moved to San Diego later on, and he was the first African American to homestead on Mount Palomar. And to this day, his cabin is there, but it's demolished, and there's the stones there. Um, And Seth Malios from San Diego State is conducting archaeological digs with his students. And he's been doing this since 2004. And he continues to do this. And I've been up there on the mountain when he's conducting the digs. And my friend actually owns the land, and we are looking at possibly having a museum up there showcasing him and then all of the artifacts that surround his life.
That's wonderful. So move us forward from that was early 1800s,
Right.
1830-ish, I think. So move
Yeah.
forward from there in terms of, if you would, just highlight some of the others
Okay.
that you've found and acknowledged.
Okay. Reuben Williams, who is Reuben the guide, he was one of San Diego's first tour guide, and he toured people from San Diego into Tijuana. He was born in 1856 in Kansas City, and he came to California from Cleveland, Ohio in 1864. He did have a wife that was from Tijuana, but he was well known for, you know, touring people all over, and he had just this great personality, and he was very smart, and he made really good money from the tours. Correct. And another person, I would say the Amos. Oh, I didn't hear you.
So, Yvette, I'm just having, all the little anecdotes like that. How do you get that information? Where?
Digging. Just digging newspapers, because some of these individuals people have written about, or so firsthand knowledge of them, or just just other people that have written, so, and then also looking at documents that confirm that these people have lived.
I
Hmm.
know one of the questions that was in the chat was whether ancestry.com is useful in the research that you do, or for others to pursue such research.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do use ancestry.com, but I also use familysearch.org. And then there's other, you know, online resources that you can use, but it's all based on what county, city, state that you're looking at. And so I also love to use newspapers.com and genealogybank.org. And, but I would just Google, Google is one of my number one go-tos. And if I'm really like, I need to keep things in, you know, like a certain, like, let's just say Walter James Porter, I would put those in parentheses, and maybe even with the city, because it'll pull up all of those in that one area, and it
Well,
wouldn't be all over the place.
well, I appreciate you sharing your investigative sleuth tips and techniques. So, but please go ahead and share some of the other individuals that you want to highlight.
Well, I am interested in the Amos, the Hudgens family. They're African American, and it was Amos and Cynthia Hudgens. They came to San Diego and resided in Coronado. And what I found interesting about their life is this: first of all, Mr. Amos was a barber, and his shop was downtown, and he would shave and do the hair of some of our well-known pioneers in San Diego, like Mr. Horton and Mr. Marston and whatnot. So but they lived in Coronado. And see, the thing is that I ran into a lady that was sharing, well, actually, I found her online, and she was a PhD and did her dissertation on fragments, or I'm forgetting the name of her book for her dissertation, but she discussed the Hudgens family. And so I wanted to know more about the family. And I discovered that the daughter, or actually the granddaughter of the Hudgens, if she were living today, she'd be 100 years old. However, she had a very difficult time on Coronado because she lived with her grandparents, and her grandmother it was by all appearance, you knew that she was Black. But however, Mrs. Cynthia Hudgens, um, could pass as white. However, the students and the community knew she was Black, and she was mistreated in the community. And so she had a very difficult life. And so the rest of her life, she passed as a white person until the very end. And then at that point, she wrote a 600-page memoir of her life. And I'm currently reading it, and it's just unbelievable, yeah.
But it's nice in some ways to have a chronicle of one's person's experience like that, because I would think many pioneers in those early days had a very challenging time. I mean, come forward to today, hopefully we are making some progress and there's work to be done. But you think going back 100+ years, what that must have been like, and having a story like that from the Hudgens family chronicles
Mhm.
what the trailblazer experience was at the time.
Right. So, my interest is really putting the meat on the bones, because so many times we have a skeleton of what, who individuals are. And yet we don't really know who they are because we don't know those stories. And I would like to find the stories to add to them because it brings those people to life, you
Yes,
know. So
yes,
that's one of my goals.
yes. And I'm just thinking, I think of hair salons, barbershops. That often was quite the place to get information, and
Mhm.
I think of the stories that barbers and hairdressers could tell just from befriending their clients in that way, and just chatting them up and information that comes through. So I would think that the Hudgens would have some stories to tell.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. I wish I wish I could find somebody that knew those stories.
Well, I have no doubt that that may be coming. So, Yvette, any others that you want to share with us today?
As a matter of fact, getting outside of the Black pioneers, you asked me to talk about different individuals, the movers and shakers of Black San Diego. We have so many, and I couldn't even give you most of the names because there's this, we all work together and we make things happen in our community and outside of our communities. But there's a few people that I would like to mention, like Dr. Shirley Weber. My parents held her first fundraiser when she ran for the San Diego School Board, and served as assembly member of the 79th district, and is now our Secretary of State of California. So that's just wonderful.
And
Um,
and we're proud from San Diego.
yes.
We're proud.
Yes. Well, I have to say, because in my home, my mom loved to entertain. So many times these individuals would be in our home, and being young and whatnot, I didn't get a chance to really sit down and speak with everybody. They would ask the normal questions like, how are you doing? What are you doing? What do you want to do when you grow up? And, just different things, or, going to school. But however, my mother would have me serve them. So that was one of the things that I would do. So she loved to be a hostess. So, I always would walk around with the tray and serve my mother and father's company and whatnot, or make sure that they had their drinks and whatnot. So I was exposed to many people that would come into our home. And so as I'm mentioning individuals, it's like I have some type of friendship with some of them.
And often in having someone into your home, hopefully that's
Mhm.
disarming in the sense that they're able to just be. So you would have a pretty good sense of someone's, maybe their character, their way of being,
Mm.
their personality. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I might add is that, and many of them have families, and then their children are carrying on their legacies. And so I also would like to hear more about their children that have grown up and have done many of the things that their parents have, and to continue the legacy of their parents. And
Wonderful.
So some of the other people are Leon Williams,
Yes.
and of course, first African American to serve as San Diego City Council member and County Board of Supervisors. George Stevens, who actually was my uncle's next door neighbor, where I reside now. And I have to laugh because he built his house in front of my uncle, so he kind of like cut his view off of looking over at Coronado.
Uh,
So, and then also, and he also served as city council member, deputy mayor, and he was very vocal in the lives of Black folks in our community, and he was our advocate. Dr. Dorothy Smith, she's a trailblazer in education and the first African-American woman to serve in public office in San Diego, and she served on the school board.
when was that? I'm not as familiar with Dorothy.
Now, you know, I didn't write that down, but it was in the
That's okay.
80s. It was in the 80s.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And then, you know what, and I'm going to just name some individuals like Dr. Carol Wayman. He's the brother of Nina Simone, very active, no longer with us. Dr. Bob Matthews, educator who passed away recently. Dr. Leon Kelly, who served our community for over 47 years as being a physician for our children and many, you know, many generations. Dr. Howard Carey, who was CEO of the Neighborhood House in San Diego.
Yep.
Dr. Matt Williams, physician, family friend. Hal Brown, another family friend, but you know, he has, you know, I think he was with CORE and educated, worked at San Diego State. Even Dr. Jack Kimbrough, who was also, he loved the arts, you know, like African art and whatnot, but he also was an advocate for the Black people in San Diego and was in regards to civil rights. And he has a school also named after him. And I remember him as a little girl, you know, running around and his wife and, you know, and whatnot. So, I mean, I just have in my mind's eye some of the things that, you know, were happening in those 80s and 70s.
Yvette, we should have retitled our conversation as Yvette's Family and Friends, Movers and Shakers. I mean,
Oh, they're all beautiful. Just everybody. Verna King and the Ragsdales and Solora Barron, who was a businesswoman. She was civically involved and she had the Lighthouse newspaper, politically active in the Democratic Party. And she served on the National Democratic Party as a delegate from the 1940s to 1990. But we have so many. I mean, there's just, I mean, we I want to say we built this city. Well, you know, we supported, we've done so much for the health of our communities, you know.
and
Yes.
that's phenomenal. I really appreciate that you're chronicling and making note and recording this history and encouraging that to be added to, so that this
Yes.
a living body of work. I mean, as you said, a lot of the names that you've shared, their family is continuing their legacy in their own expression, and that's wonderful to see. And so it is important for us to have these conversations and to make note of those that have come before and pave the way for all of us in moving forward.
Yes.
So I love how you have woven together highlighting various community leaders, whether it's the barber, whether it's the tourist and tour guide, whether it's the physician, or whether it's the civic activist. You've really given a beautiful range of those that have contributed to our history.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Yes. Dr. Willie Morrow, who taught the military to cut African American hair. Yeah, wow, he's done so much for our community of San Diego. I mean, not only is he a trailblazer when it comes to cutting Black hair, and he's a chemist, you know, making different types of products. And also he had 92.5 radio station and the Monitor News, and his daughter Cheryl Morrow is she picked up his mantle and she's running with it, and doing, she's done a lot of things in her own right too. But
But
it's just
it does beg
uh,
the question that D is noted in here. So I have to ask, what is the California curl?
oh, well, you know what? It's the drier version of the Jerry curl.
Okay.
With the Jerry curl, you
Yeah.
sit back and you have the stain, on pillows and whatnot. But yeah, I think that he I think that was wonderful, that he did something where we didn't have to worry so much of having a drip.
So Yvette, as we get to the close, anything you've taken us forward in terms of
Mm.
history as we point towards our present and future? Anything that you would say related to our the Black future in San Diego?
Well, I think we need to continue what we're doing. But I think what's really important is that we start to preserve our history. We need to collect our stories, and we need to have a repository, and not only a museum, but some form of library or something that where we can store our things. I know that there are other organizations that do that, but we as a people, we need to have ownership of what we have,
Yeah.
because um because we need to be able to help others to do this research and whatnot. Whatever papers that we have that are important, our organizational paperwork or whatnot, we need to save this. And I'm looking to getting a group of people together to um, get something together within our community. I mean, there's other individuals in our community that want this, and we're all willing to work together to make it happen.
Yvette, thank you for the work that you're doing, really the passion that you have brought to it, and it's been a pleasure to not only have this conversation with you, but really to get to know you over this last couple of weeks. So thank you for being with us today. Uh,
Thank you.
wish you well, and for everyone else that joined us, thank you. And if you want to get involved with some of the things that Yvette is doing in terms of preserving and pursuing research in the San Diego history for the Black community and for all of us, please reach out to her. But thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Please be well.
Thank you.